I mean, this is not every day that you get to talk to someone who's as successful as Sunil. I must say that I think I'm truly privileged.
Thank you, sir. This means a lot to me, honestly. Thank you, coming from you.
Tell me, when we started this journey nearly 15 years back, did you ever think this was possible?
No, sir. Honestly, I don't think any of us could have imagined that we'll come so far. But I think we had that conviction, all of us, sir, including you, that at the back of our mind, that India has that opportunity, right? And India could emerge as a big hub for manufacturing for the world, right? Because we knew the kind of strengths that we had. We have a huge amount of talent available, right? And when we saw that multinational companies who had set up their factories, they talked about that the productivity of our labor was as good, or even better sometimes as compared to the other factories in the world, given the right kind of environment. So I think the early signals, sir, were there for all of us. But I'm glad, sir, that you supported us and you recognized this, this opportunity much before that anybody else could do. And really, that support turned out to be invaluable.
And we created this whole idea of electronics import becoming bigger than oil import, which actually struck chord with a lot of policymakers, and that is how some of the policies got approved. Otherwise, no one was willing to actually. We believe in that sector.
So that means, sir, we'll have to look for more slogans now too. Yeah. So maybe Vinod and us, we can work on this now, sir.
But coming back, tell me, so what were the big challenges that you faced between 2010-11 to 2025? Today, of course, when you look back, where were times when you saw that you felt maybe it's not the right line, or this is not the right industry to be in? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Sir, I think, whether it's any industry or any opportunity, the biggest challenge that one faces as an entrepreneur, is the challenge of the mindset, right? And that mindset, whether it's of the government or the mindset of, the people within your organization or the mindset of the stakeholders around you. And I think this is what I talked about some time back, that, this is what happens when, the leadership of a country really gives a call to action, and I think when our Honorable Prime Minister talked about, let's make in India, let's make India the hub for manufacturing for the world, that message, went to everybody down the line. And we saw that, suddenly everybody started saying that, saying that ye ho nahi sakta, started saying that, okay, tell us, what can we do, right, to make this happen? And I think this is what happens across, organizations also. When the leadership gives that call, right, then, things fall in place. And I think now is a time that, the leadership should be talking about, whether it's the companies, entrepreneurs, or the government, that how we can make this sustainable by designing in India. How can we make this sustainable by deepening the manufacturing? And how can we make this sustainable by making sure that our MSMEs start believing in scale, the power of scale and global competitiveness? So I think that's the way forward now. So I think, sir, the watershed moment was that, when the company realized that what our focus should be. And I often say that, business is a lot like yoga. The minute you realize your focus, your core, things start to change. And I think the big change that happened for us was, I'm talking about maybe 20 years back, when we were also having our own brand. We were doing marketing of our products. And we were also trying to focus on EMS manufacturing. And fortunately for us, we realized very quickly that we were really not investing for the future in either of these two verticals, right? And this was a very difficult decision, because this was a time, sir, when in a branded business, we were making huge amount of money. So when when we discussed, me and Atul discussed with our team that, we want to get out of the branding business, it was a very difficult thing to sell to our people. Right? Because something that is profitable, something that is scalable, why do you want to get out of it? But we realized that our focus is very important. And I think that was the changing point for us. And I think ever since that happened, we saw that we were investing for the future, we were creating that scale, we were investing in the design of our own products. We were really kind of also making sure that we offer that customer, that wow factor. So I think this, I would say, sir, was the turning point. And also, I think a big turning point was when we had a first private equity investment, because that allowed us to dream on a much bigger canvas, right? And I think those are the two critical points of our journey. I think I would say the biggest factor that why we were the first of the block, we were able to, as you rightly said, when the PLI scheme was announced for mobile phones, we were able to set up the factory in 6 months, and we were the first company, to cross the incremental sales. As you know, there were two criteria. One was the investment and incremental sales. We were the first company to cross that hurdle, and also the first company to claim that incentives. I think the biggest point has been, sir, empowerment of our people, right? And the fact that we are able to create these mega factories at quick pace, we are able to execute so fast, is because I think our people are really empowered. And I would give full credit to Atul, our CEO. A lot of people here know him. I see a lot of familiar faces. And I think he's running a very, very tight ship. He's created entrepreneurs out of all the division heads that we have. I often joke with him that, those division heads came as engineers but have turned into chartered accountants, because now they also talk about ROC, returns, very, very mindful of what has to be done for our stakeholders. So I think that's the key change. And of course, there are lots of other things that fall in place when the organization does well. I always say that as, a role of an entrepreneur, really what, entrepreneurs should be doing is to try and have a microscopic vision and a telescopic vision at the same time. Because, a lot of entrepreneurs, I find, maybe including myself also, that sometimes we get so involved in the day-to-day things, maybe signing checks or vouchers, that we forget about the big picture. And, obviously the day you're not growing, you're dying. And some of us are so high up in the air, just looking at the big picture, that we really don't know what's happening in our companies in terms of happening to the smallest detail. So I think, that's very important to have that kind of a vision. But, I'll admit that I don't think I've perfected that, because, I'm often told by Atul that I'm diving in too deep sometimes into details, maybe which I should not be. And maybe sometimes I'm also missing the bigger picture. So I think, for me, it's a work in progress to ensure that I create that fine balance between the two. And also, as I said, that how can I empower my people more and more, because the next, sir, I'm sure the 20 years are going to be very different. Like they say, what got us here will not take us to where we want to go. We'll need a different set of capabilities. We'll need to invest in digital transformation. We'll need to invest in many, many more things. And certainly the scale of the company is completely different now from what it used to be, 25 years back. So that would mean more empowerment, more trust, getting that extra mile for that customer. So a lot has to be done.
I mean, you have seen huge growth, 7x growth in the last 5 years. But the announcements by US President in the recent days has brought in mixed feelings in different sectors. First of all, how do you see electronic sector responding to those announcements, and how do you see your own company responding to those announcements? And do you see opportunities? Do you see threats? How you perceive them?
Sir, I see, as I mentioned in my address, I see this as one of the biggest opportunities that has come our way, both as a country, as an industry. I think it was very obvious right from the day one when this thing started, when Mr. Trump announced talking about tariffs, that this was always going to be about US and China, tariff war, right? The others, of course, there was that temporary pressure, but it was always going to be, maybe the other countries would sign off on something that will be mutually beneficial. But of course, it was always going to be about China and India. And now the kind of manufacturing I talked about that is there, and even if some small portion comes of it, we could be talking about huge numbers. Already, sir, you would have seen that in the last few days, we have touched a figure of almost $30 billion of exports just to mobile phones. This could very easily go to about $100 billion in the next 5 years. And I talked about the kind of numbers, the opportunity that is there in the US market. So even before this happened, sir, people were looking at an alternative to China. Right? So now we need to make sure, of course, from the industry side and the government, that we put the right things in place to ensure that at least this time, we don't miss this opportunity. Because I think the last time this opportunity came, before COVID, when people were talking about China Plus One, honestly, I feel we lost out to Vietnam. But this time we need to ensure, that we grab this opportunity.
Can I ask you a direct question?
So,
So are you looking at more Apple phones coming to India and Dixon doing them?
So normally when someone asks me, I don't answer that. But
You don't
so,
have to answer if you
the only
don't
thing
want
is,
to.
I think, sir, the way I can say that, right now, the kind of capacities that we've built, I think we are catering to almost all the Android customers. And as I mentioned, that now we have a capacity to cater to almost 50%, right, of the total market. And there is no doubt that Apple in India and globally is an iconic brand. In mobile phones is the first name that comes to mind. And even when we talk to the Apple senior management, I think what they are very keen on is Indian entrepreneurs. And they've announced it. It's not something that I'm sharing that, they've told us. They've, openly talked about it. That they're very keen that Indian entrepreneurs come forward and invest as part of the ecosystem, whether it's in the components. And we've seen in their case, it always starts with components. So even if you see some of the big vendors who cater to them, they started off with components, as you know, sir. So we are hopeful that, someday in the near future, we start off with certain components, and let's hope that it leads to, bigger partnerships in times to come.
Do you think IT is dead and gone, or do you think, and what does it mean for Dixon, and what does it mean for India?
So, sir, I think there is already talk that is going on, what I've heard, and the government is talking about it, the parliamentary panel is talking about completely getting out of the IT1 agreement. I presume, sir, that's what
that's exactly
that's
right.
what you're talking about. So this was signed a long time back.
97.
And I think when the government probably looked at the impact of this agreement, I think the kind of results that we have got is not really been satisfactory, or the kind of results that we wanted, I don't think we've got. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that it's kind of destroyed our component ecosystem, if I were to put it a little strongly. And we know that we cannot be a global superpower without a component ecosystem. So if really now that the US has gone against the WTO guidelines of having differential duties for different nations, if they really talk about getting out of that commitment, maybe we should look at seeing that can we get out of IT1? Because if that happens, I think it'll give a huge boost to the component industry, and that is really what is required besides the new PLI scheme that has been launched a week back. And I think I briefly touched upon it in the presentation, that one of the future opportunities that we've identified is the automotive sector. Because what we've seen, there is a huge shift happening in the automotive sector, that a large part of the car is electronics. In fact, some people say that now the new electric cars are actually smartphones having wheels, so that's the kind of this thing with the number of electronic products that they have. So when we are looking at a new venture, sir, as I mentioned to you, for setting up display, and we are looking at the display module facility, which should be up and running by maybe by October. So the automotive display is going to be a big part of it. Also, sir, we are looking at the high-value EMS, like catering to defense, for which something that you have been a very close part of, and medical electronics besides automotive electronics. So these are the areas identified for the future already. So we've already talked about it, our intention of getting even into more backward integration of setting up a display fab. But of course, this is dependent on the new ISM policy, because we would not be able to do it unless we have huge subsidy. And I think we've seen that globally, wherever the semiconductor infrastructure is coming or the display infrastructure is coming, it has only come in with huge government support in terms of subsidies. So we are waiting for the ISM too. But I think besides the subsidies also, sir, honestly, we are kind of evaluating and looking inwards, that do we have it in us to handle that kind of project, because what it requires is a completely different scale, completely different skill set, a completely different team ability. So I think a lot of questions will have to be answered by us, other than just the financial side of it, which is only subsidy and from the government.
The value, one of the biggest critiques of electronics industry outside of people who are outside and people who may not know the industry has been that value addition is low. How do you see that changing now, let's say in mobile phones, How do you see this mobile phone value addition changing with the new PLI which has come.
When we look at other product categories, the product categories that we manufacture, like the refrigerators, the washing machines, LED lighting, there the value addition is much, much higher. In fact, we have Bothaji here from the air conditioning industry, Manishji, and they'll tell us that an air conditioner, the value addition is the kind of component ecosystem that has been built in the country after the last PLI was launched is amazing. So many companies have come with compressor manufacturing, and I believe now they're at a value addition of about 75%. So I think mobile is one area which is definitely a problematic area. The problem there is that a large part of the bill of material of mobile phone is the semiconductor, right? So even countries like China, they've been able to have a value addition of only about 55%. Vietnam, in fact, is only about 30%, right? And we're about 18%. But the good news is, sir, that now with the display facility coming in, ours and many more, and also the camera module, we'll be able to take it to 30% maybe in the next 1 year or so, right? So I think which is extremely positive, because Vietnam took such a long time to reach this level of value addition, and we'll be there very, very soon. And I'm hopeful that the new scheme that has been launched by the government will have a good response. A lot of the MSMEs companies will also come forward because the scheme is very attractive. And if that happens, I think the value addition will keep deepening. And we'll see us, slowly climbing that
and we
ladder.
can hope that you will again be the fastest taker of PLI this time also, as was the case for EMS.
So that is one area that is definitely a work in progress for us, because only about 10% of our turnover comes from exports. But as I mentioned, the events of the last few days have been extremely encouraging. I think the number of calls that Atul and me have been getting in the last few days is phenomenal. The kind of reaction that is there, extremely positive. So now we just need to ensure that we just go out there and execute. So that's what is to be done. And if we do that, I'm sure exports is going to be a very, very large part of our turnover in times to come.
And will we see a situation where we will see Americans coming to India to buy their iPhone?
Yeah. So, sir, already, it's extremely positive that 20% of the iPhones which are sold in the world are made in India.
That's right.
And we are hoping that now with this, it'll go to at least 70%, if not more, in the next few years.
We have seen 7x growth in last 5 years for Dixon. We are seeing a huge opportunity, and your track record shows that you have done it, you can do very well. What does 2035 looks like for Sunil Vachani?
Sir, we have grown at almost about 35% CAGR, and as we saw in the chart and numbers, we have doubled our turnover, sir, with last year, the last financial year, to almost about 40,000 crores, coming from about 18,000 crores. And I hope we continue to do that. But as an entrepreneur, sir, I'm a little different. That I don't believe vision in terms of numbers, because people ask me, tell me that okay, next 3 years, is it 1 lakh crore, 2 lakh crores? I tell them that look, it's simple math. Like when we're talking about, let's say, the mobile market itself, the total market size is about 4 lakh crores, right? Laptop is about 1 lakh crores, so 5 lakh crores. So even if we were to get, let's say 20% of that market, right? We're talking about 80,000 crores. And currently in mobile, we've just done only about 20,000. So the reason I'm talking about these numbers, it gives you an idea that how fast we could reach those numbers. But like I said, our vision is that we need to make sure that we are an extension of our customer. We get the trust of our customer, and we go that extra mile for our customer. Because if we do that, where this could go, no one can imagine.
But you are India's Foxconn, and Foxconn is 400 billion. So you cannot be satisfied with 45,000 crores.
No, absolutely. So I think we look forward to the day, when Taiwanese companies tell their companies that, you need to be the Dixon of Taiwan. So if that happens, then yes, maybe, we should look at even numbers beyond that. So why not?
So this is the true Sunil, This is the true Sunil, which actually, I think, takes this company to new heights all the time. So what is this? Can you describe this this attribute of yours, which is actually taking up aspirational positions and then trying to achieve those aspirational positions. How would you describe this attribute of yours?
No, sir, I feel my role in the company is very limited. In fact, I'm kind of sitting idle these days. It's in the sense that my role is to make sure that, I create that vision for the organization, and I have to make sure that people believe in that vision, and I make sure that people are empowered, take those decisions that the company has to reach there. And also, like I said, sir, that, as entrepreneurs, we have that unique, responsibility of connecting the dots of the outside to the inside, right? So making sure that there is complete alignment as to what is happening outside, and the company is gearing up to meet those challenges. So it's very simple. It's the team which has done the job. I'm playing a very small part in that.
But what is that makes you successfully achieve this, where you are able to empower your team, have a colleague like Atul Lal who's been there for you for how many, 3 decades, 4 decades? Yeah, 3 decades, and works, absolutely closely in partnership with you. What is that? What are those 1 or 2 insights which you think which enable you to be able to do this, and which are your core strengths in the company?
सर मैं अपनी तारीफ कैसे करूं मैं
नहीं कर सकते यहाँ पे बिल्कुल.
Sir, I think, like I said, it's all the team effort that is there. They've done a tremendous job. But I think if I were to answer that question, and one thing that probably you're looking at, that what really inspired me, and I think I would say that it was my late father. I think I saw that huge qualities that he had. He was a real people's person. He had a huge foresight. Some of us might not know, he was the first person to launch color TVs way back in 1983, when very few people saw that. So I think, having seen him, work and operate so closely, I think that was a real inspiration for me. And I think that really brought about a huge change. And as I mentioned that, when I was starting the company, I turned to my late father, that I want to do this, that I want to start a company where I manufacture for others. And of course, as you know, that we had a very successful brand in the family. And he was quite surprised that I want to do that. And he said that, okay, I trust you. I'll give you a small amount of capital, which was about a few lakhs. And he said that I'm going to choose the name Dixon. So he chose the name. And then he said, I'm going to make sure that Atul comes with you. He mentors you. Atul was his blue-eyed boy. And of course, he said, I'll give you my blessings. So all 4 proved to be invaluable. And, I'm just lucky, blessed to be at the right place at the right time.